Alright, hello everybody, I'm Index. This is gonna be a Beetle swim tutorial. This guy's a jerk, so this tutorial is gonna go over how to swim off Beetle from Forest Haven to... I'm going to go over both the swim to FF2 and the swim to Outset. I'm not going to go over the swim to Wind Temple, because this is mostly for an any percent tutorial. But honestly, the swim to Wind Temple really isn't that bad. You just gotta weave through Fire Mountain and Windfall and you'll be fine. So don't really worry about that. This is mostly gonna focus on getting into the water. I'm gonna go over 3 different methods to get into the water. I'm gonna go over one where you're facing the wall, one where you're facing to the right of the wall, and one where you're facing to the left of the wall. And all of the methods have like their little pros and cons, but I'll explain why I like mine and why people like the ones they use. And yeah, let's get started. Alright, so first off, one thing I want to go over is the positioning of Beetle. Beetle's positioning is not very good to start off with. His default position is pretty much impossible to swim off of. If you try to swim off of it, you're gonna sploosh every time. And what I mean by sploosh is you're gonna go airborne for at least a frame, and then Link will lose all his speed. It's pretty much impossible to swim off Beetle like this. Like, even if you try to sidewalk into the water, you can see Link gets an animation where he like splooshes into the water instead of just an animation of entering the water. So you can kind of tell that this initial position isn't good. So we want him to move just a tiny bit. And the way Beetle's AI works is he has like this radius, like a circle around him. And if you exit the circle and then re-enter it, he'll move just a tiny bit. But as soon as you re-enter it, you know, you're supposed to be able to get in the ship shop if you get close, so it's gonna stop. So what I like to do is I like to do one roll away and then one roll back as soon as I see him moving, and that usually gets him in the right position. Alright, yeah, so I like this position because the barrel is like just a little bit past this corner, like this little corner on the island, and it also goes a little bit past this wall if you're looking at it from this angle. And I kind of like this angle. This is what I usually go with. You might notice I'm pausing here. That's just so I don't run out of the... There's a timer before Beetle will start moving again, and I don't want to run out of that timer because I want to be able to explain the trick. For the next part, I'm going to go over the method where you face the wall first, and I'm just going to go over all 3 methods pretty quick, how to enter the water with them. And then I'm going to show what happens if you have too much speed and you try to leave the island. And then I'm going to go over the swims. Alright, so first thing you'd want to do is you want to get on the barrel, and you want to do it fast. So I like to roll to the barrel and release the control stick, and what that does is you'll just fall in place when you leave the ledge. Just like that. If you hold the control stick, you'll get a jump and land on Beetle, and then you can just back walk off. It's no big deal. It's just a small time save. And then I like to stand on kind of this part of the barrel, just like a bit on the right side of the barrel, or the right when you're facing the island. And I like to aim the red dot at these blades of grass. And then as soon as I've done that, I item slide forward and I count like 3 bobs of the red dot, and then I ease myself into the water. You want to ease yourself into the water because the way you're going to ease yourself into the water, I guess you could do it with the camera. I personally prefer to do it with ESS. So I shift my ESS to be a bit down right instead of just straight down. And then I just enter the water. If I shift it so it's too far right, then I'll sploosh, and I'll show that real quick. Yeah, so I splooshed because I shifted it too fast. So I want to shift it slowly, like that. So you item slide forward into the wall, count about 3 bobs. This was more than 3 bobs, but don't worry about it. I'm not actually swimming off, so I won't sploosh. And then I'm just gonna ease myself into the water slowly. Like, that was way too much speed. If you have this much speed, you will sploosh and lose all your speed as soon as you try to exit the quadrant. The next method is facing this way. You want to face so you have a little bit of an angle towards the wall. Like, you don't want to face perfectly parallel with the wall, but you want to face so you're kind of looking into it. And a good way to line this up is you get on this part of the barrel and you aim at the left part of the sandbag, or whatever those are. I assume they're sandbags. And then you want to item slide to the left. I kind of don't like this method because it's a left-right item slide, or a right-left item slide. You have to item slide left, and I really hate doing that. I'm not the best at these, so I try to avoid them whenever I can. But they're doable, and this method has a nice easier part where as long as you line up the red dot angle correctly, you'll always ease into the water, so it's easier to get into the water itself. So same thing, you want to charge up about 3 bobs of speed, and then just press target. And then when you press target, I didn't do it right there, but you wanna release the control stick when you press target. It might help to pause buffer it. And then you just hold towards the island and or away from the island, so Link will turn around, and then you just hold towards Link and he'll turn around in the water and you can swim away. But we're not swimming away yet, so let's not do that. Also, if at any time Beetle moves and he's not in a good position to swim off, like you can't really swim off this anymore because he moved a little bit. You just re-enter Beadle and walk out, and that'll reset him to his default position, and you'll just have to adjust him like I showed earlier in the video. 1 roll away and then 1 roll back. And this should work. It's a little bit farther forward than, or a little bit, he didn't move nearly as much as the first time, but this should still work. Alright, the next method is an inverted item slide, and basically what that means is when you item slide, with the grappling hook, or the bow, or the boomerang, not with the hook shot. The hook shot's weird. And you have negative speed. You'll shoot to the left when you press target. And that's what the last method I showed abused. Like when you look here, you press target and you shoot to the left. And then Link enters the water. And that's what that method used. This method does it the other way. So you're looking at the water, and then you invert the item slide by doing a left side hop. That's very important. It has to be left. If it's right, it won't work. It has to be left, and then that will invert the item slide. For the hook shot, it would be a right side hop, but you don't have the hook shot at this point, so but in case you're practicing with the hook shot for some odd reason, then you would have to do a right side hop to invert it, but you wouldn't want to invert the hook shot. Anyway, so you go in first person, you press target, you do a left side hop, and in the middle of the left side hop you want to release target, and when you do that, Link will re-enter first person if you did everything right after he lands. So he re-entered first person, so now I've got an inverted item slide. Of course I didn't move Beetle, so this one won't work. So now I've got an inverted item slide, and all I do is I slide to the right. I'm gonna try to slide to the right, and then I press target. And if I have a good angle, again, you want to face a bit away from. For this method, you want to face a bit away from the wall. Last method, you wanted to face a bit towards it. This one, you want to face a little bit away from it. And then Link will ease himself into the water as long as you hold neutral. Every time you fail this one, you have to re-invert the item slide, so that's one thing to keep in mind. And then Link enters the water and you can swim off. That wasn't very much speed, but I was just trying to show entering the water, so it's fine. Alright, so the next part is getting away from the island. This is a part I see a lot of people struggle with. And a lot of people decide they want to slide off the island, and you'll see them go something like this, and it's kind of hard to control, and that's not ideal. So instead, what I like, oh god, where's Beetle? What I like to do is to just do a turnaround in the water. To do a turnaround in the water, all you do, it's the same concept as with MSS, but it doesn't have to be frame perfect. If you press the opposite direction of Link, of the direction Link is facing, then he'll just immediately turn around. He'll do a 180 really easily. It's pretty easy. So let me get Beetle position. Oh god. Let me get Beetle positioned correctly again, and I'll show it off. For for the demonstrations up to this point, I'm gonna use this method of getting off because that's the method I'm the most used to, but again, anybody can be good at any method with just a little bit of practice. I just prefer this one because it's what I practiced. And Beetle moved again. Thanks, Beetle. Alright, so you're in the water. I was holding down ESS the whole time, pretty much. And then, Link is facing towards the camera right now, so to get him to do a 180 turn, I want to press up, straight up. And that will make him do a 180 turn, and remember you have negative speed when you're doing a super swim, so he goes the opposite direction of wherever you're pressing. And then I just hold up for a bit longer to make sure he gets away from the island, and then I just hold down again to make sure he turns around and goes where I need him to go instead of towards the edge of the map. So a good backup for the super swim, let's say you get off the island and you don't really have too much speed. A really good backup for this super swim is just going to Bomb Island. It's not really fun to do Beetle super swim, and it's definitely challenging. So if you don't have much speed, obviously this is not a good example. You can just go to Bomb Island, which is one quadrant north of here, and it's much easier to swim off of. You can also go to like Windfall, but that takes more speed to get to, so Bomb Island is usually what I would recommend. Yeah, so this is Bomb Island, if it loads. And you can see there's like a really nice slope into the water here. All you want to do is do a sideways item slide into the wall, press target, hold target. If you, I don't know how many people have noticed this, but if you do actually turn around so Link is facing away from the wall, he likes to clip through, which is not actually ideal. So usually you want to hold target there and just keep Link facing sideways, and then just ease yourself into the water. Boom. Easy. Alright, so the next thing I want to go over is I'm going to go over the swim to Forsaken Fortress 2 and the swim to Outset, because those are the two main swims you do from here. There is also the swim to Wind Temple, which I mentioned earlier, but I'm not going to go over that. Alright, so the swims start the same, they all start the same. You get your speed, you enter the water, and then you turn around and you're off. So this is the swim to Forsaken Fortress. I passed the ferry island, that was Eastern Ferry Island, and I can use that as a checkpoint. That means, based on the angle I passed it, I probably am going straight towards Windfall, which is bad because Windfall is a sploosh quadrant. You want to avoid Windfall on your way to FF2. Yeah, there's Windfall. Right there on the right of the screen. And then Mother and Child's a really good visual cue. And then once you get here, I like to enter on the right side of this rock because then I can still see the fortress, and you just go into this corner right here. And yeah, that is the swim to Forsaken Fortress. And once you're here, you just clip into Forsaken Fortress with an item slide, about facing this way. One important thing to note is if you ever get lost around Forsaken Fortress, there are actually a couple places you can grab to refill air, to clip in, whatever. But that rock is, that's where you want to end up. If you get past that rock and you get lost, you might see this rock. This rock is a liar. It's not actually the right rock. You don't want to use this rock. If you use this rock, then you'll end up in a corner where you don't get an air refill and you can't stand on land and you can't grab anything. Don't trust this rock. You want to go over to where this nice friendly rock is. Alright, and now I'm going to go over Now I'm going to go over the swim to Outset. I got to get back to Forest Haven though, so it's gonna take me a second. Sorry. Another thing is avoid Greatfish. It's not technically a sploosh quadrant, but it has a cutscene in any percent that you don't want to trigger. Okay, whatever. Right, so an important thing to note for the Outset Super Swim is if you're going to Outset, you want to make sure it's daytime. If it's not daytime, go to Windfall instead and get the Song of Passing and change it to daytime. Because if you're going to Outset for the Super Swim, you're probably doing the Lair Manip route. And for the Lair Manip route, okay, let's talk about the Super Swim first before I get into that. So this is, I just passed Private Oasis. One island you want to avoid on your way to Outset is Ice Ring. I'll try to show off Ice Ring. Yeah, so Ice Ring's right there, right next to the Wind Waker symbol on the screen right now. Avoid that as best you can. That island will sploosh you very easily. It's probably the biggest sploosh quadrant I can think of. Like, it splooshes the easiest out of all of them, except maybe Fire Mountain. And then you just kind of want to make your way over. There's Southern Ferry, Headstone, Shark Island, and here's Outset. You want to enter Outset from the from the west, and it's less likely to sploosh you if you enter from that side. And there's Ice Ring. Don't go to Ice Ring. But yeah, if you're doing that super swim, then you want to make sure it's daytime, otherwise the pirate ship won't be there at Outset, and you need the pirate ship to be there for the route. So if it's nighttime when you get to this point, your best shot is to go to Windfall and get the Song of Passing, change it to day, and then go to Outset. Alright, the last thing I want to go over, I forgot to go over this earlier, is what happens if you have too much speed when you try to do this swim. So thankfully it's pretty fast if you mess this up. See, I've charged way too much speed. That was like 6 bobs of the red dot. What's gonna happen is I'm gonna turn around. One of two things is gonna happen actually. I charged way more speed than I meant to. I'm either gonna crash the game or I'm gonna leave the quadrant in 1 frame. If I leave the quadrant in 1 frame, then I'm gonna sploosh. If I crash the game, well, the game crashes. That sucks. So let's hope the game doesn't crash. But yeah, this swim, it's kind of precise, but with a little bit of practice anybody can get it down. So let's see what happens. Yeah, so I left the quadrant in 1 frame. It would have crashed already. And basically what happened was the water level of the quadrant I left was different from the quadrant I entered, and I'm pretty sure that's why it happens, and that's why I holy cow, I went pretty far. This is the distance I traveled in 1 frame, and that means I don't know, the water's different, so you go airborne for a frame, and then you just sploosh. And that pretty much covers everything you need to know about Beetle swim. Hopefully this cleared it up for some of you having trouble. I know it's definitely one of the harder tricks in the runs, especially when you're first learning super swims. It's definitely one of the trickier super swims. So I hope this helped. If there are any more questions, join the Wind Waker HD Discord and ask for help and practice help. There's tons of people always willing to help. And pretty much all of us have done this trick before. So thanks for watching.